In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to make a customized, accessible, non-visual digital map. But before I create my map, I always have to carefully consider the goal of the map and my students' abilities. So the students' abilities would include their tech skills, their knowledge of how to use the map software, and also, of course, their orientation mobility skills. So I am in Google Chrome and I am going to type in mymaps.google.com. Again, that's mymaps.google.com. Now I've created a lot of maps. So on my screen, there's a grid full of maps that have already been created. If this is your first time on this website, then you will not have any maps. Your page will be blank. On the left-hand side, there's a red button and it says create a new map. So let's get started by selecting that button. Now in the URL, there's a place to search for the area that you want to create your map of. So I am going to do a map of the Illinois School for the Visually Impaired. And that pops up. Now, visually, Google Maps is now on the area right around the Illinois School for the Visually Impaired. I can type in an address, I can type in a city, I can type in a campus name, whatever it is that I want to search for, and the map will pop up. Now, on the left-hand side, I have a column, and at the top of that column is Untitled Map. Let's give a name to this map. We're going to call it the Illinois School for the Visually Impaired. Okay, and I hit save. Now, I do want to mention that you want to spell out your words in your labels because a screen reader will often not announce an abbreviation correctly. So we want to spell out Illinois School for the Visually Impaired. Underneath that, I have the option of add layer, share, or preview. I'm going to add a layer. So Google Maps supports different layers. Right now in our SAS Graphics Accelerator, which is the software we use for the non-visual accessible maps, our software, it does not currently support layers, but that is a feature that hopefully will be coming soon. So as you make your maps, you want to incorporate that feature into your maps, even though it does not work yet. So a layer is, I'm going to go ahead and mark my tags by layers. For this map, I'm going to do a layer of intersections, which will be all the streets. I'm going to do a layer of buildings, the different buildings on campus, and I'm going to do a layer for points of interest. So if I have those marked by layers, then once the software supports it, I can select just intersections and only the streets will appear on my map. I can select just buildings and only the buildings will appear on my map. Okay, so let's go ahead. We have a layer here. I'm going to come down to Untitled Layer because I want to give it a title. And I'm going to select it, except it's not letting me. There it goes. Okay, Untitled Layer. I'm going to make this the intersections layer. I'm going to add another layer by selecting that. I'm going to come down to Untitled Layer and select that. This one is going to be my buildings layer. Save. I'm going to go back to the column on the left and add another layer. Come down to Untitled Layer, select that. And I'm going to say points of interest. Now, this is the only exception to not spelling out the whole word. I put POI for points of interest. If I spell it all out, it gets really, really lengthy in our labels. So we're going to just do POIs. It's all capital letters, so the screen reader does read that correctly. So now I have three options. I have intersections, buildings, and POIs. As I select that one section, that one layer, there'll be a little blue bar on the left-hand side. If I go down to buildings, you see that blue bar moves. I'm going to go back up to intersections because I always start with the streets. My preference is to go ahead and put in the boundary streets, meaning the streets that are the boundary markers of the School for the Blind. So in this particular case, with the Illinois School for the Visually Impaired, there are 3 boundary streets, but then there's a railroad that runs along the north end of the School for the Blind. So in this case, I'm going to do streets and a railroad as my boundaries. So underneath the URL where we first typed in Illinois School for the Blind, there are some options. I'm going to select Add Marker. So I'm going to select that tag. It looks like a little pin. And I'm going to come down to East State Street and at Campus Driveway. So I am going to always mark my streets at a specific place. I'm going to do it at an intersection or at some type of specific place on the line. Otherwise, if you just choose a random spot on a street, the student doesn't know where on the street they are. That street's a long line. You don't want to just randomly mark it. You want to mark at intersections or at a specific point. So I have hit my tag. I am going to select East State Street at Campus Driveway. So I'm going to now type that in by saying East, and I'm spelling it out. State, Street, and Campus Driveway, comma, intersection. And then I'm going to save that. I'm going to exit out of that. Now, when I mark a street, I need to mark in at least 2 places so that we know if the street goes east and west, or if it goes north and south, or at an angle, a diagonal. Maybe the street curves, and I would have to make tags and mark multiple places along that street. So I'm going to hit the Add Marker. I'm going to come over to East State Street and Howe Street. East State Street is a bigger or main street compared to Howe Street. So I'm going to put East State Street first. Again, I'm spelling it out, East State Street and Howe Street, comma, intersection, and then save. So now I have 2 labels along East State Street. I'm going to add another label. And this time I'm going to choose Howe Street and the intersection of the railroad crossing, because the railroad crossing is going to be the north boundary of the campus. So this time I'm going to say Howe Street. And now, if I knew the name of the railroad, if it's the Red Line or goes to wherever, I would put that name in there. However, I don't know the name of this railroad, and I can't just say railroad tracks because there's another railroad track that's on the west side of the campus that runs north and south. So the difference between them, this railroad track that crosses Howe Street runs basically east and west. So I'm going to call it the East-West Railroad Tracks, comma, intersection. Now and save. Okay, so I really like that, putting in the railroad tracks as a landmark, because it's such an auditory landmark. I would assume that there's trains that go up and down that track, so it would give the students an idea of where they are. Now I would want to go along and mark 2 places on the East-West Railroad Tracks. And I would do that at the intersection of the East-West Railroad Tracks and the North-South Railroad Tracks. And then I would come down again and mark the North-South Railroad Tracks on East State Street. So if I have more time, I would show this, but you would just do it the same way. You hit Add Marker, put your cursor down, and put that tag exactly where you want it. All right, so let's take a look. What else do we want to mark? We want to mark some of the buildings on campus. So now I'm going to go over to the buildings layer. I'm going to select that, and I see the blue bar on the left-hand side. I'm going to go up and add a marker, and I'm going to come down and say, this is Frank Hall main building on East State Street, comma. Now I could type in building here, but since it's already in the name, Frank Hall main building, if I do a search for buildings, then this will pop up because it's already in the name. So I'm going to hit save. Now, if you've noticed, I also put where it's located because it's on East State Street. So that gives me just a little bit more information about where East State Street is or where I might find this building on campus. Okay, so I can add in a couple of more buildings. Let's do one more just to kind of show how this goes. So the next one I'm going to do, this is building number 17. But on the left-hand side of building 17 is the media center. So I can put in there building 17 connected to the media center. Okay, and hit save. And again, I could put comma building, but because it says building already in the tag, I don't have to. I'm going to hit save. And then I have a choice. Now remember, it's all about, these are customized maps, and it's all about the goal of the map. If I'm making this map and I want lots of details, I could move that tag over to the right-hand side of the building, and I can add another tag that says Media Center connected to building 17. So I would have both of those pieces of information with a little bit more that we know that the media center is on the left side and the building 17 part is on the right side. Same with the Frank Hall building that we marked already. I know that on the second floor is educational classrooms. So maybe I want to add, make a more detailed map, and I might want to add that in. Or maybe I want to add in where the tech room is in that media, in that educational classroom. I can choose to customize these tags however I want. Going back to the street tags, I can do a tag at the 90-degree corner on the campus driveway. So the campus driveway is kind of unique. It goes north, and then it takes a 90-degree corner and going east, and then it dead ends. So I've already marked the campus driveway on East State Street. I can go up and mark the corner, the 90-degree corner, and I can mark it not as an intersection because it doesn't intersect with anything there, but I can say campus driveway 90-degree corner, okay? Or I can go to the end and say campus driveway dead end. Those are two specific places along that driveway, and it gives you great information that it is now a 90-degree corner. It doesn't go just straight north-south. It goes north and south, and then it turns east. So that's really great information to have. Now, I do want to show one other type of way of putting in tags. The tag just to the west of campus, there is an Italian takeout. So I could select the tag that's already there. Remember, this tag will not show up unless I add it to my map. So any of the tags that are already on Google Maps, these are customized maps, so it only shows up if I add it. But if I wanted to add that Italian restaurant, I could select the tag. I can say add to map, and I can then edit it and put in any other information that I wanted to include. I'm going to X out of that because I'm not going to add that one right now. Another thing that I can do, let's go ahead and put a point of interest in. So on my layers section on the left-hand side, I've selected point of interest. I'm going to select tag, and I'm going to put a random point because I saw another map of this campus that shows an oval track to the right of the gym. So I'm just going to say oval track, POI, and hit save. And X out of that. So now I've put a marker in a blank area. There's nothing there, but I could put my marker there and mark that. So this is really important information that you want to include on your map. You can use tags that are already there. You can put a tag on top of something, like I'm going to label my street intersections, or I can put a tag someplace that has nothing there and I can add the details that I want to add.